You know, sometimes a single piece of tech, something that can fit on your thumbnail, can tell you everything you need to know about a country's ambition. And today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're diving deep into the story of the Vikram processor. This is India's first ever homegrown chip, and it signals something huge for the future of global tech. So, here's the plan. First, we're going to look at the big moment when this chip was revealed. Then, we'll break down what Vikram actually is. After that, we'll get into the massive mission behind it and, of course, how the world is taking notice. And finally, we'll wrap up by asking the big question. What does this all mean for India's future in the chip game? Let's jump in. All right, so let's set the scene. We're in New Delhi at the Semicon India 2025 conference. Now, this isn't just any old conference. It's a huge deal for the entire global chip industry. And this was the exact stage where a brand new chapter for India's tech ambitions was about to be written. And this quote, man, it just says it all. The Union IT Minister, Ashwini Vaishnaw, says, "We just presented the first made-in-India chip to PM Modi." Think about that. This wasn't some quiet product launch. Nope. This was a statement, a declaration of what they can do, made right to the Prime Minister himself. So the date to remember is September 2nd, 2025. That's the day Prime Minister Narendra Modi was officially handed India's very first indigenous chip, the Vikram processor. I mean, you can just feel the symbolism there, right? All those years of planning, all that hard work finally paying off in this one single moment. Okay, so we've got this huge historic moment. But what about the star of the show itself? What is the Vikram chip, really? And why should we care? What makes it so special? Well, at its heart, the Vikram is a 32-bit microprocessor that's 100% homegrown. But here's the really cool part. Check out who designed it. ISRO's Semiconductor Laboratory. That's right, ISRO, India's space agency. They're the ones driving this whole thing. Kind of amazing, right? So what does it mean when your chip is designed by a space agency? Well, for one thing, it means it's incredibly tough. We're talking space qualified. It's built to handle the brutal force of a rocket launch and survive insane temperatures. And this isn't just theory. It's already been proven in the harshest environment possible. It was validated in space on an actual mission. And if you think about it, that's a huge deal. A chip that can be trusted to work perfectly in space? Well, that's more than tough enough for some of the most demanding jobs right here on Earth. We're talking about critical sectors like defense, aerospace, even automotive and energy. Basically, any field where failure is absolutely not an option. Now, a chip like Vikram doesn't just appear out of thin air. Not at all. It's actually the capstone of a huge strategic national plan. And to really get why this one chip matters so much, we gotta zoom out and look at that bigger picture. Just take a look at this timeline. The whole India semiconductor mission only kicked off in 2021. And in just 3.5 years, they've got 5 manufacturing units under construction. To go from launching a mission to presenting your first homegrown chip in that short a time, that is moving at lightning speed for sure. Of course, you can't move that fast without some serious cash behind you. And the government is putting its money where its mouth is. We're talking a massive 76,000 crore rupees. It's all part of this big production-linked incentive scheme, which is basically designed to pour fuel on the fire and make this kind of growth happen. And this really shows you what the true ambition is here. It was never about just making one single chip or funding one lab. Nope. With 10 manufacturing projects and 23 design projects already approved, the goal is crystal clear. They're trying to build a complete, self-reliant semiconductor ecosystem right from scratch. So when you make moves this big on the world stage, people are going to notice. The question is, what are the big players, the global industry leaders, saying about all this? Well, let's start with Tim Archer. He's the CEO of Lam Research, and they make the super advanced equipment you need to build chips. He says India is laying the foundation for a resilient semiconductor ecosystem. And that word resilient, that's the key. It means creating something that's not so dependent on the shaky global supply chains we've all been dealing with. But at the same time, it's not about building a fortress and shutting everyone out. You've got leaders like Kai Beckman from Merck pointing out that semiconductors are a team sport. What he means is that India isn't trying to do this in isolation. It's positioning itself to be a new and really important player on the global team. And then there's maybe the most critical piece of the whole puzzle, the people. Mark Papermaster, who's the CTO at AMD, hits the nail on the head.
He talks about India's extraordinary talent base. Because look, you can build all the fancy factories you want, but at the end of the day, it's the engineers, the designers, the brilliant minds, they're the ones who are actually going to drive this thing forward.
And if you want to talk about potential, let's talk about the money. We're looking at a projection of a $100 billion domestic market in India by 2030. $100 billion. That's a massive internal customer base that can support and sustain this entire new ecosystem all by itself. Okay, so let's pull it all together. We've seen the historic event, we've decoded the tech, we've understood the massive mission, and we've heard what the world thinks. So what does it all boil down to? What does this one little chip, Vikram, really tell us about the future? Well, what we're really watching here is a fundamental shift in identity. Think about it. For decades, India has been a huge consumer of chips, buying them from all over the world. But with Vikram, it's making a statement. It's taking its first real, tangible steps to becoming a major creator of this incredibly important technology. And that really gets to the heart of the ultimate vision here. The end game was never just, let's make a chip. It's so much bigger. It's about achieving strategic self-reliance, what's known as Atmanirbhar Bharat in India. It's about building an entire industry that can stand on its own 2 feet, an industry that's robust, sustainable, and can compete with anyone in the world. Look, the Vikram processor is a huge first step. It's proof of concept. It says, yes, we can do this. But it also brings up the next, even bigger question. Now that India has proven it can make a chip, can it build the entire, massive, mind-bogglingly complex ecosystem you need to really compete on a global scale? That right there, that's the challenge. And it's the massive opportunity that lies ahead.